I do have a good question I'd like to begin. Is just kind of an icebreaker.
All right.
For our website, Movieboozer.com, our movies are reviewed based on beers, ranging from one being a toast through a six-pack.
Oh, okay.
And a
I
six,
like.
yeah, a six-pack being, it doesn't have to be necessarily an all-bad movie. It basically just means a six-pack is a movie that will take up to 6 beers to either get through or to make it more enjoyable.
Okay.
So with that said, based on that 1 through a six-pack scale, E.T. for Atari, what would you give that game?
Let's see. Because you know what, I don't think it's the worst game the way everybody says. But I mean, it's frustrating for sure. But I find it frustrating in a fun way because I feel like every time I play it, you have to beat the game. You can't put it down until it's beat.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And yeah, you can't say that about many Atari games because usually it's just get the high score and that's it. But E.T., the game actually has an agenda. I thought it was very pioneering for those days, a really ambitious game. I would give it a. I mean, I've never rated anything on a scale like that before. I'm going to give it 2 beers at least, because there's plenty worse games. So yeah.
Okay, now just to clarify, 2 beers would be like a fairly decent game. If you're going down the scale, a six-pack would be like something which is probably it's sort of like a reverse 5-star system.
Let's put it in the middle. Yeah, let's put it in the middle. Let's give it a 3 then, because
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, and
there's a lot of factors that go into it. Yeah, the game.
Yeah, it depends how quickly I get drunk off of 1 beer, so that's I'm all set.
now normally for our website we require you to explain each beer separately. With one being you have to give everything a toast to say. This is what I like about the movie. Every movie deserves a toast, and then everything after that, you have to come up with. If you give it a six-pack, 5 other things, and those 5 things are things that you don't like so much about it. So anyway, I'm not going to make you do that because that's I think that would take a while to contemplate.
Okay.
With that said, so it's certainly not a big rigs over the road racing or anything like that.
Big rigs would be hard liquor.
A full six-pack and maybe a keg.
Yeah, a keg.
It's like,
Now,
6 kegs.
yeah. Another question that I have for both of you, and I guess I'm sort of jumping around with this, but I did notice in the movie the composer Bear McCreary did most of the music. How did you first get in touch with him?
It was, I'm gonna say, 2010 or 2011. I forget. It was the year where we did I think it was 2010 because we did it was a Christmas episode, and he did the music for that, for the nerd episode, and he just reached out an email. We talked for a little while beforehand, and he always said, he's open to doing anything if I have something for him to work on.
Oh,
and knew we needed something bigger eventually. Like we had a big project going, and of course when we did the movie, he was the first guy we thought of, and we went out there during pre-production. We met with them and we talked a lot about it, and he had lots of great ideas, and he was awesome working with.
I was really impressed with the score. I liked the mix of a little bit more of a conventional orchestrated score with some 8-bit kind of chiptune stuff. And
yeah.
I actually noticed... I don't know if... Was it intentional? Because I did get a chance to see the movie a couple days ago. Was it intentional to have the sequence... I believe it's the sequence where you are approaching the landfill for the first time. The music kind of reminded me of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's amazing. That blows my mind.
Yeah, it was very much a Morricone kind of feel, because we kind of felt like, because we had these big, like wide Sergio Leone type shots, and like this reminds me of like the Good, the Bad, the Ugly, one of my favorite films, and we we wanted him to give a little bit of a spaghetti western kind of sound to it.
It
so,
sounded
yeah.
like it was kind of not directly quoting, but coming close to that. I believe the it's called Ecstasy of Gold, the sequence where Tuco's running around the cemetery.
Yeah.
He's laughing because we had that point when we were editing. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I remember when we were writing the script, we would all put on like things that we were referencing or thinking of, like to try to get our point across. And James put on Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and he put that cemetery scene on. He was like, "This is what I'm thinking when they approach the landfill."
Yeah, because he's just running around looking for the spot, and it's like, where's it buried? Where's it buried? You know.
Exactly. So I got to give you a 1 beer toast, Kenneth, for picking.
We even almost had a line in there where he says, where they're trying to decide who's going to dig the games or something. It's like there's two kinds of people in this world: those who dig and those who don't. There's whatever we changed it up. We wanted it to be like those who review ET and those who do something. I forget what our line was, but at one point we had like a
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I definitely caught that. Sergio Leone might be my favorite filmmaker. I love all of his work, and that moment in particular is probably one of the standout moments in his career. So I was really impressed by that, and I've noticed, of course, even in the nerd videos, you often have some of those subtle movie references, which I think that's one thing I do have to say I do appreciate about it is. In your work, you like putting things in there that that isn't caught by everyone, but when people do catch it, it's sort of like an extra bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone recently picked up 4 Back to the Future references in the movie.
Well, what's funny is that I thought we had 1, and then I realized, oh wait, that's right, we have 2, because the other one wasn't as aware, but that was like, okay, yeah, that's right, we kind of molded that line off of it, and then someone found up to 4 today, and we're like, oh yeah, okay, so we got 4 Back to the Future references at least.
And I think there was, when you think about it, there's more. It's the fact that I think when you're writing and as an artist, you're the last person to know why you're doing certain things, you know what I mean? Everyone else kind of picks it out. But yeah, Back to the Future for us both is like a huge, iconic, watch it 1,000 times and ruin it in your VCR kind of movie. So it's in our brain. Can't stop it.
That's a movie I like to call like a Saturday afternoon movie. It's a movie where if you have a lazy day with nothing to do, and it happens to be on TV, regardless of where in the movie it is, you can put it on and just sit back and relax.
Yeah,
if it has commercials on, you're like, I could finish this movie in twice as short time, but it's playing right now and I can't look away.
Yeah,
exactly. And another thing that I wanted to mention from my impressions of the movie is, and I know that you've been, I'm sure you're both big fans of Troma. And, of course, Lloyd Kaufman has a wonderful cameo in the movie, which immediately made me think of Guardians of the Galaxy, which also had Lloyd Kaufman in it, and in a very small scene.
Next to each other.
Yeah, he's like super quick in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, less than 2 blocks away from our world premiere of the movie, Guardians of the Galaxy happens to be premiering right down the street. Less than 2 blocks away, El Capitan Theater. We're at the Egyptian Theater. They're like right next. So we got all these, like, they have like, like 50-foot crane out on the street and all kinds of stuff, and it's like, oh, is that for us? No, that's for this Marvel movie down the street.
Exactly, and it followed us to Fantasia, James. You weren't there, but I think it had its international premiere at Fantasia, I think.
Are you kidding me? Really? That's crazy.
It followed us everywhere, and then of course I watched it for the first time in Chicago, and I saw Lloyd Kaufman's face for just a second, and I was like, oh, boom, there he is.
Yeah, I still have yet to see it. I'm trying to see it because I hear it's real good.
Oh yeah.
Lloyd is the best part, though.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Although I don't want to spoil what my favorite part was because it was mind blowing, and all I have to say is sit through the credits. Leave it at that.
Okay.
With that said, in reference to Troma, I love the way that those films in particular blend, and even the newer ones blend practical effects with some. The newer ones have used a bit of computer effects from time to time, but it's still very much the focus is on if they can do it practically, get it done. And it doesn't matter if the look is the goal is to accomplish the shot, and it actually adds a little bit of an atmosphere to it if the shot isn't necessarily it doesn't have to be 100% photorealistic, is my point. And that's something I loved in the movie, some of those miniatures that you had.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of not a trauma film, but very much in that same vein. If you've ever seen Dead Alive, Peter Jackson's movie,
mm-hmm.
there's a couple scenes in it where you see what's supposed to be the background of just the city that the film is shot in, and it's very clear that the double-decker bus is a model being pulled along.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is... it endears me to it. It makes me feel... it gives me what I like to call kind of a Muppets atmosphere, where it's like, we're all in this together. Let's go have a barn dance, make a movie or something.
Yeah, good. That's a good phrase for it. The Muppets atmosphere. It does give you that feeling of like this like comfortable Muppets film that's like super endearing. But James, you're actually the first person, like in high school, like I was hoping to be like do big Hollywood blockbusters, and you were introducing me to like we did Kung Fu Werewolf from Outer Space, and that was the first time that hit me, where the spaceship is flying over the moon and it bounces into the moon. It's got a string attached.
Yeah. The moon shakes when it hits it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. And
yeah,
you turned me on to like, yes, this is a good way to make an effect.
Yeah,
that's I really enjoy the practical effect atmosphere, but I liked also how you did include some more modern effects in it as well. And it reminds me, here's the Guardians of the Galaxy connection. James Gunn used practical effects in that movie whenever possible, but he of course also had the money to make a full fleshed out world. And of course, James Gunn himself did a lot of trauma stuff, and so I guess that's where I'm bringing it together. I see those influences, and I wanted to just ask: was that sort of an intention to have that kind of a influence?
Yeah, I was really just numb to how effects have gone in the past decades, where it's just everything CG. And, CG should be used sometimes, but it seems like it's used all the time. And I wanted to see something that's really there. And even if it doesn't look as spectacular, I think it's more fun to see something like that, because then you sort of become part of the filmmaking process. It lets other people in on it. Like, oh, I can see how they did that. That's, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean... computer animation is a wonderful art, I think, but I think it's been overused in film as a crutch to just make it easier. We can make it easier in a computer versus actually having someone do that stunt or make this thing actually blow up. And
yeah, from where I stand, James, I remember we were just writing the script, and we were like, "Oh, this is going to be a full-blown Cinemaster thing, and we're gonna have all the strings, and we're gonna show our scenes." And we're just going to totally go for it. And I actually think that at one point we thought of just doing everything in a practical way, and then but on the other hand, the fan bases, so many of them are so talented with VFX that at certain points when it got to a point where we had the option, there was just so much talent that it was hard to turn it down. Like there's that great spaceship, homemade spaceship, where it's like both. It's like half a homemade spaceship going down a slope at some point, and then it like does a Bugs Bunny jump, and then suddenly it cuts to CG, and it to me it looks just like
the real thing. Like when you see me on Vasquez Rocks, like I'm really at Vasquez Rocks in an alien suit, getting inside this giant fake ship.
Yeah.
But then when it's flying, then it turns into like a CG shot.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
A good example of like when you can do it, and it didn't need to be CG the whole way, so why do it CG the whole way? Obviously it could fly, over the fence, and like it absolutely had to be CG in a certain way with the shot we were trying to do. But I think to Kenneth's point, like I think it's just about being tasteful with it.
Yeah. But there's parts where the practical effects don't work all the way, where you need some VFX enhancement to fix things. Like we have a monster that has all these tentacle arms, and how do you get the arms to all move? Well, then I don't know why we didn't just do strings all the time, but we had these poles, these horrible poles, and the poles would go in front of the wings of the monster, and anytime when the poles would cross over where the monster was, somebody had to be taking that pole out and then painting back in the wings that are behind it. So whenever the pole was like in the sky, then it would be like, you know, they would just be a flat blue. They would be able to take that out easier. But then the poles would get in front, and that's when it would become a nightmare. And it makes me really appreciate all the Godzilla movies and everything, where they'd have a, you know, Ghidorah, they'd have this giant dragon with 3 heads, and in each head is moving around doing its own thing. And then they got, like, it's got 2 tails, and the wings are going, and they have all these parts. And you really don't see strings in those movies as much as you think you would. You see them sometimes, but they didn't have computer effects to take that out. So it's really impressive what they did in the old days.
Yeah,
so
how they hid that was brilliant, and I certainly respect that a lot. On another atmosphere of well, you know what? Let me move on, because I know we do have limited time. I wanted to ask you, because I saw in one of your recent blog posts that you have a making of documentary that's going to be coming out along with the DVD. Now, is that something that you are directing? Either of you?
Yeah, we're working on that. Basically, we're getting interviews of people who worked on the stuff, and so we're recording those, and then it's probably going to be feature length. It's probably going to be maybe almost as long as the movie. I don't know. It's going to be somewhere between an hour and 2 hours, I think.
See, I love that. Those making of films. I mean, I know American Movie is one of your favorite films. And of course, you managed to make the film completely, and so I would compare it more to on the Clerks DVD, Snowball Effect is like a 90-minute long making of.
Oh, cool.
With the or Burden of Dreams is it's almost as long as Fitzcarraldo. My question is, did you have any challenges making the film that approximate any of these? You hear these disasters about, like, the making of Apocalypse Now and such. Did you have any Apocalypse Now moments?
The whole thing was an Apocalypse Now. You know,
I know the landfill. Shooting the landfill with all the extras was a big one. We'd scheduled, or we coordinated to have 100 or more, you know, extras come, and it was like, it never rains in Los Angeles, in case you didn't know. But one day that we had like that many extras that were actual fans, it rained, so then we had to suddenly just like reschedule all those people.
Wow.
It's like, if you can just imagine that.
Flooded out the whole location too, so we had to, like, we couldn't even shoot. It's not like the next day we could shoot. It had to be, the whole thing needed to be postponed till the end of the whole schedule. So we had to, like, shoot the rest of the stuff and come back to that at the end when it was, like, you know, really hot then. And where it was hot, where, you know, you hear about all these fires in California. Well, the whole location went up in flames the next day after we got there. So it was like we had the water and then the fire, which narrowly escaped. We got out of there before the fire happened. But
it was like backdraft.
Yeah, the whole location was just burned.
Or if you've ever seen Lost in La Mancha, the Terry Gilliam film about his movie that he never got made.
I love Terry Gilliam, man. I haven't seen that, though.
Oh, it's a great documentary, and it's so depressing because it's about literally what happened to you guys. It being rained out and then set being destroyed, things like that, happened to his movie, but they ended up having to pull out, and it didn't get finished.
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you're dealing with a budget, when you're trying to make like a big adventure comedy, on the money that we had, the shoestring, I feel like every day is basically an apocalypse now. If one thing goes wrong, it's a major problem because you don't have any money just to throw at it to fix the problem. So it's all ingenuity, and it's all just like, grace and good luck that we got through it all.
Certainly, navigating that is really impressive that any movie gets made. And I know that we're running low on time, so I do have one question that I did promise a very close friend I had to ask. He asked me to gauge if you've ever heard of this game. If not, have you ever played for NES Bucky O'Hare?
Yes.
All right. How would you rate that on? Let's go to the beer scale.
Oh, okay.
And give us just a little idea of your opinion.
So if it was one beer, it would be amazing. It'd be like one of the best games, right?
Yeah, a toast is like a 5-star movie, basically.
Okay. So if I would give it, well, I'd give it at least 2 beers because I remember it being a pretty good game. So
kind of a Mega Man clone in a way, but with a few extras.
Yeah, like nothing special, but it's a pretty good one. It's a side scroller. You're shooting stuff. It's nothing much to it that I remember, but yeah, it's kind of like Mega Man. That's a good way to put it.
Kevin, have you played it?
No, but it gets at least a toast for being Bucky O'Hare. Bucky O'Hare is an awesome character.
As a kid, I was always like, "Why is the rabbit green?"
Yeah.
I wondered that too, and actually when I was a little kid I avoided the show because of that, and then I had a chance to go back and watch some episodes when someone posted them on YouTube briefly, and
I thought it was such a strange thing that you have a Ninja Turtles were green, so it's like you have the tortoise and the hare and they're both green, and I'm like, what? Like, why is everything green?
And then you had Battletoads, of course, and
yeah,
I guess they were all riding on that same, because those all came out about the same time. Well, Battletoads came later, but
yeah, late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, James, I would think Battletoads is the game that we disagree about the most. I love Battletoads. Like I think Battletoads is a fantastic game. It's incredibly hard, and once you get to that, like, Wave Runner section, like it's like nearly impossible. But
that's the part, yeah.
That was to me the game that like brought me some of the greatest joy growing up. Up there with like Street Fighter 2 and like some of the great games. But you kind of hate it.
Oh, it's awesome up until that turbo tunnel. Yeah. Once you get to that turbo tunnel, it's like, and it happens so soon in the game. It's the 3rd level, and then once you get like, oh fuck, now what do I do? And now what do I do with the rest of my weekend? I can't beat this level.
I played only the Game Boy version growing up. I didn't play the Nintendo version till later, and the Game Boy version is just as bad, except it's just lower budget as far as like the instead of a Wave Runner, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like playing Flappy Bird, if you've ever seen that.
Oh, I have, yeah.
Yeah, so imagine that as your 3rd level. But
wow.
With that said, the music is amazing in the game.
Oh, that's the thing. It's the music. When that came out, that changed the music in that game. Just
but then
something
you play,
just like and enjoy.
2 players though. Once you play it 2 players, it's like forget about it. Like you hit each other and you can't even go near one another.
Yeah, I felt Donkey Kong Country was like a big musical jump forward in the same way.
Oh
yeah,
especially the scene on the pirate ship. That battle is. Yeah, I get down to that. Yeah. Well, with that said, I know you guys have been doing interviews all day, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So I appreciate you meeting with me today, and the video-on-demand version of the movie comes out on September 2nd, right?
Yeah, that's right. So on that day, you come to either the YouTube channel or cinemassacre.com. We'll have all the info at that point of what to do to get it.
All right, excellent. And is it going to play in any other theaters? Any plans for an expansion of type?
There might be some more select theaters, but we're not now we're concentrating on the digital release, getting the video on demand out. So basically, we're taking those 3 steps. Like the theaters, we're mostly done with it. There's one big one coming up left. That's PAX, Penny Arcade.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So there's supposed to be a big room, like a 2,000 seat room. So that's a big one to end with. But then the digital release will come out, and then maybe later on, there'll be some conventions actually. Actually, there's one RetroCon at the end of September, which is in Pennsylvania. But yeah, we'll mostly then be focusing on the DVD and the Blu-ray, trying to get that all, getting this big documentary out, and there we'll really get into the details of how we shot a lot of those miniatures and everything. So that'll be, I can't wait to go in depth with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the way we threw the kitchen sink, everything, and the kitchen sink at the movie, we're doing with the DVD extras. Like, you get commentary, you're going to get a full feature-length documentary, you got all like these behind-the-scenes interviews, you got all these
outtakes.
That's what I want to hear. I'm a commentary fanatic. That's sort of my comfort food. Is when I am looking to relax for the evening, I will put on a movie with commentary to get an idea of the process. I'm especially a fan of anything that Kurt Russell has done a commentary on.
Oh, nice.
I can't recommend enough, and I guess this will be a good way to go out. I'll give you guys a recommendation. If you can find in a bargain bin somewhere the DVD of Used Cars, Kurt Russell, Robert Zemeckis, just telling ridiculous stories of their little low-budget comedy, and how it was released the same week as Airplane.
Oh, wow.
And it's almost, the movie, I enjoy the movie, it's a funny little movie, but the commentary track is better than the movie. At one point, there's a scene where Kurt Russell almost gets hit by a car as he's backing up. This car goes within a foot of him, and he's just laughing. He's like, I almost died there.
Yeah, not planned.
So
I hear Arnold Schwarzenegger's commentaries, are always really funny.
Conan the Barbarian and Total Recall are works of genius in its own ridiculous way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when they're informative too, always a fan of commentaries.
Yeah, the one that cracks me up the most that I've heard is From Dusk Till Dawn. You have Tarantino and Rodriguez both do it, and I remember they fill every second with just all kinds of funny stuff. And I remember him talking about how the MPAA doesn't like the color red, and that's why they had to change the color of the blood to green. Is just because they don't like the red.
Yeah.
And that somehow saved it from getting a worse than an R rating? That's...
Yeah, like supposedly it was going to be like, I don't know, weird thing. Like, I've never... I can't even think of a movie that's NC-17 for violence. Like, I just don't think, like, you can go so far with it. I think it was in Roger Ebert, his review of Hannibal, he said, if you can have a movie where someone cuts off their face and feeds their flesh to the dogs and still not get an NC-17 rating, then nothing ever will for violence.
But the right combination of nudity, and it's immediate. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
With that said, it's always good to go out on a note of referring to nudity.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I can't say enough how much I thank you guys for joining me today, and I will let you enjoy the rest of your day with whatever plans you may have, and have a great evening.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for your interest in the movie and everything.
Yeah, one here for this interview. Thank you so much.
Thanks.